Hello everybody, this is Danielle Stewart, your candidate for mayor of Beckley in 2020, and we're here for another session of Ask Danielle. Again, we'll be doing this every week, either at 7 or 7:30, depending on whether there's a city council meeting that day. Today I will be assisted, I assume, by my ever-present lap cat, who must not have got enough attention today. She has questions, of course, but it all involves around why we don't give her wet cat food and only give her dry cat food and no milk. And where's the cheese? So, couple of things to talk about today. One, had a question from Mark last time about problem-oriented policing and the SARA model. So I've done some research on that and now understand better exactly how to talk about that. I've also published two papers over the last week on my website. One is on my plan for downtown revitalization. The other is an analysis of the Beckley budget for 2020, fiscal year 2020, which really started July 1st, 2019 and runs through June 30th of 2020. I don't at this time have the what would be fiscal year 2021 budget starting July 1st. So first we'll go back to answer Mark's question. And basically Mark's question was, how do I feel about problem-oriented policing, especially in reference to community policing? If you remember from last time, I'm definitely a fan of community policing. So one of the things he had mentioned was the SARA model, S-A-R-A, of problem-solving policing. And the SARA stands for Scanning, Analysis, Response, and Assessment. Scanning is basically identifying the problem. Analysis is, okay, what are all the factors affecting this problem? Response is what you're going to do. And then assessment is, okay, is what you did effective or not. So, which was really interesting. So once I started reading on the SARA model, it was like, well, this is Army targeting. Somebody just got the same, changed the words up just a little bit, but essentially that's the entire Army targeting process. And actually it's a very big debate. And I assume it's going on in the police world, big debate in the Army world. And basically, it's kind of the same thing between community policing and the problem-oriented policing. With community policing, in my opinion, and the way I see it, community policing is a lot more focused on preventing crime from happening, whereas problem-oriented policing is focused on crimes that are occurring and how to address those. They're not mutually exclusive. To me, I think a police force should be really doing both. I do have some problem with targeting specifically, whether it's crime or whether it was insurgents in Iraq and Afghanistan. And my reasoning is this: when we were targeting in Iraq, we would have 10 small-scale insurgents. They were actors, and we could never arrest them or touch them because the targeting guys we need them to lead us to the bigger fish. And so then we would have the bigger fish, and the other people working on that bigger fish, the next bigger fish said, no, you can't target that guy because we're trying to get the bigger fish. And it became a game of everybody doing nothing because we're trying to get the biggest fish. So when you're talking about problem-oriented policing, targeting, the SARA model, that's something to always be aware of is, are you really doing the best thing by trying to target the higher up versus the underlings, for lack of a better word? And I don't know the solution. I've seen both. I've seen both work. I've seen both not work. So really it's about working hand in hand. But I still am a major proponent of community policing, getting police officers out on the street, meeting people, talking to people, and doing everything they can to prevent crime before it happens. And then the other part of the community policing was making sure you're engaging all the other agencies that are available in a community beyond the people to try to get help. My cat, Gracie, the lab cat, is now once again trying to tip over the water because that's what she does. We have no idea why. And it's not her water. It's the dog's water. She likes to tip over the dog's water. So, again, as I stated, I did 2 papers this week, one on the city budget and one on downtown revitalization. So I'm going to go ahead and start talking a little bit about my analysis of the city budget. This is a question and answer session, though, so if you have any questions, you can feel free to jump in. Both these papers are on the website, www.daniellestewartformayor.com, under platform. If you hold your mouse there, all the papers will pop up. I also created a separate page that kind of highlights little bits of each one of the papers. It makes it a little bit easier to find what you're looking for. And really, the city budget was kind of a different paper. I took a different approach with it. If you've read any of the other position papers, it's kind of, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's how we pay for it. When we're looking at the city budget, it's really just an analysis of what's going on with the city budget. Where's our money coming from? Where's our money going? And really, the intent is if you've read my policy papers, I have some kind of expensive proposals going on in there. Building 4 community centers, $1 million a pop. You will hear me talk about very soon about building a museum downtown. That will be somewhere between $2 and $5 million to do that. And a lot of people will say, well, we can't afford that. We can, and I've got the proof. So looking at the city budget, so the city has to submit their budget to the West Virginia State Auditor's Office, local government department. You can go to the state auditor's office or Google state auditor's office, local government. It'll take you right to the page. You can see Beckley's budgets from 2013 all the way up to this year to kind of give you an idea. I have went through them over time. Interestingly enough, not a lot of changes except that the money coming in has increased and the money going out has equally increased. So looking at the budget for 2020, the city, I guess, so we've got two factors here. So at the beginning of the year, we have the original general fund. And this is the money that we think is going to come in and that we're going to spend at the beginning of the year based off of analysis. Then we have the revised general fund. And the revised general fund, it happens from, well, I guess anytime there's a revision, but really looking, I guess, like February, March time frame, that they revise the budget to change numbers where they need to. So last year, or last fiscal year, July, the city projected that it would bring in a little under $24 million in income, $23.7 million. So through that, though, we look at what really came in, and as of whenever this revision was submitted, the city had brought in $28.5 million. That's $4.7 million more than what they projected. And so when you look at this, what do you do? We made more money than what we were expecting. All of that extra money goes into something called the unassigned fund balance. And the unassigned fund balance is basically any extra money you get in goes in here and you can spend it however you want. I hate to use the term funny money or slush fund, but it's funny money or slush fund. It's not necessarily what you need to operate. It just gives you the opportunity to get other things. So that was basically the money that was brought in. The biggest amount came in through business B&O tax at $10 million. Next was the sales tax, the 1% sales tax at $4 million. Property taxes at $2.8 million. And then federal government grants at 1.4. All combined, that accounts for 81% of the income coming into Beckley. And again, the unassigned fund balance is just extra money. So like the wine and liquor tax was projected to bring in 180,000. After it hit the 180,000, anything extra that came in goes to the unassigned fund balance. So that's kind of how the budget has come in for income for the city for this year. Looking at expenses, and I guess, a couple of things I need to know as we're doing the transition from income to expenses. One is that cities are not allowed to have a savings account, basically. So if you bring that money in, it must be spent, or at least obligated in that year. And so you'll always find that our expenses will always equal our income, and there's no differentiation in that. The other thing to note is that so when they're doing the budget, again, those two amounts match. So when they're looking at expenses, their original expenses are the money they think it's going to take to do the basic operation. And that number and those money will always match the expenses income coming in. So income will always match to the expenses. And then again, anything other goes into the unassigned fund balance on the income to be spent. So looking at the expenses, again, 23.7 million was what they projected. 28.5 million came in, 4.7 million extra. As you could probably expect, the police department is where the city spent the most money, 6.4 million. Fire department, 5.5 million. Streets and highways, 3.9 million. Recorder's office, 2.7 million. And then comes the really interesting one, contingencies. Contingencies are something has come up, and that fund is $2 million. I'm sorry, $2,372,000 this year. Or at least that was the revised amount. The original amount was $354,000. The revised amount is $2,372,000, a difference of $2,018,000 as you go through. So we have all these expenses and where money was spent. And there's a whole lot more here. We spent money, the Visitors Bureau, street lights, snow removal, signs, city council, street cleaning, parking, obviously parks and recs. So, there's data processing, almost $1 million. I don't understand that one either. So when we're looking at this, we're really looking at that 4.7 extra that came in. This 4.7 that isn't exactly needed. I'm sure the departments really like having that extra money, but it's not part of their basic operation. It just allows them to do more things. So with that 4.7 million, we had an extra 500,000 went to the police department, the fire department, the streets and highways, and the recorder's office. We had 430 that went to something called general government, 100,000 to data processing, 150,000 to building inspecting, 30,000 to extra to commissions and authorities, 28,000 extra to the mayor's office, $10,000 extra to the city attorney's office, and then again that $2 million of contingencies. So that's a lot. That's a lot of money across the board. And it's not necessarily new, this coming up. The issue with the contingency money, again, is that it kind of can be spent anywhere you want to spend it. A couple of months ago, we were talking about the Humane Society needing support from the city. That extra money came out of those contingency funds. So there are things that are getting funded out of that are important. My question is there's a specific line item in the city budget for supporting the Humane Society, and the number there is 0. So we're supporting them, but instead of putting it as a line item in the budget, we're doing it as contingencies. And why? It's all about control. Because if you put it in the budget, you have to spend it. But if you put it in contingencies, well, maybe we'll spend it. Maybe we'll help. Maybe we won't. Maybe they'll ask good enough and we'll give them the money this time. Maybe they won't ask good enough. So I found that very interesting. So I'll talk to you, though, about the extra money that came in. But let's look at where money didn't go for that $4.7 million. Housing got $7,000 total. Economic development got $24,000 total. Street cleaning, with all the trash that we have, only got $31,000. Street construction and streets and transportation combined got $865,000. Those are the budgets that we actually use to pave our roads. Continuing on, engineering, $0. Rehabilitation of properties, $0. Planning and zoning, $0. Complaint department, $0. Sidewalks, $0. Public transit, $0. Youth programs, $0. Playgrounds, $0. Beautification, $0. Social services in an area strongly hit by drug epidemic, $0. So this was kind of one of the quotes that I pulled, and it really spoke to me, you know. And don't tell me what you value, show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value. Kind of curious how the people of Beckley feel now that they know what the budget's been going on with the budget. And interestingly enough, this is not new. This has been going on for years. I went back as far as I could online, 2013, and looking at the slush fund that has come out since 2013, $6 million in 2013, $7 million in 2014, little under $2 million in 2015, little under $3 million in 2016, $3.5 million in 17, almost $5 million in 18, and over $5 million in 19, and almost $5 million in 20. So you add all that up, that's $36 million over the last 8 years that Beckley could have spent on paving our roads, on fighting the drug epidemic, on housing, on economic development. We spent, at least this budget, $0. So all of that is online. This is my printed copy. And I encourage you to look at the website. I go into a little bit more detail about all the stuff in the budget. But the bottom line is we average $4.5 million a year in this slush fund that we can kind of spend that doesn't necessarily do the same things as that doesn't prohibit. You know, the police are operating and they're not going to change whether they have this $500,000 or not. This just allows them to do extra. Now, I'm sure they like having that extra money. Everybody does. But when we're talking about a city with the number of problems that we have, we've got to reprioritize where we're putting our money. We have housing issues that must be addressed. We have economic issues that must be addressed. We cannot continue doing business the same way as we've always done it. We've got to do something different. That then now takes me into the next paper, which is the position paper on downtown revitalization. This was actually kind of interesting as I was going through, you know, because I had a plan, and I've been going through my head, you know, different ways. How do we develop a plan? And then I found the plan. The city has had a plan since 2014. They did and this is a comprehensive, citywide comprehensive plan. And then there's one chapter specifically dedicated to how to do things in downtown. You'll find the link to the comprehensive plan. It's a couple hundred pages long. You'll find it's if you really want to know what Beckley's supposed to be doing, you can take a look at that plan. I will tell you that we are not necessarily doing.
Okay.
Okay,
I lost it for a second. It's back.
All right, I think I'm live again. All right. So there were a couple of projects that were recommended that I wanted to mention. One was a new multi-purpose public building supposed to be built near the Beckley Intermodal Gateway, the parking garage. Redoing Word Park parking, adding a small public building next to the DHHR. Upgrade the underground area to support the businesses. Rehab the buildings on Prince Street. Building multi-purpose buildings along the intersection of Heber Street and Neville Street, South Heber Street and Neville Street. But basically that's the area that's the hole, or I should say the old hole and the new hole. So when you look at, and then there parking on Earwood was the project. And when you look at all over, we're 6 years in, let's assess where we're at. We have one project that is completely with accordance with the plan, and it's not complete yet. But that's the parking on Earwood Avenue. They've bought the land, and they still have another building to take down, and then that will be a project in the comprehensive plan that was completed. Partially, we built a new police station where we had talked about building one of the new public multi-use buildings. So we got something there. Just wasn't necessarily what was in accordance with the comprehensive plan. And then on the corner of Heber, South Heber and Neville, we have the Mises Law Firm building went in. There was supposed to be another building where I don't know what we'll name that park now, the park formerly known as the Hole. And so that's 50% what was in accordance with the plan, still not totally. Everything else, there's been no revitalization effort on the buildings in Prince Street. There was very limited upgrades, if any, that the city did to the underground area. Nothing happened at Word Park like it was supposed to. And then we have the buildings on Neville Street that were torn down and now sit as a parking lot, which was supposed to be, again, multi-purpose office, retail buildings, but we got a gravel parking lot. So that's the comprehensive plan according to the city. So what is my idea as we go through? A couple of things that I want to do in accordance with the plan. Number one is the city owns the Roche Lab building on Prince Street. And what I want to do right now, if you haven't guessed already, the plan is to tear it down to make parking, because that's what we do with our downtown. We tear it down to make parking. I had a nice little quote here on parking too. Parking drives me nuts. Anyway, I don't want to tear it down. The cost estimate to repair that building is $1 million. I think that keeping the building is worth it. And what are we going to do with it? I want to create an art collective, a residential art collective. So what that would look like is the first floor would be open concept studios, places for the artists to perform, to sell their wares. The second and third floor would be efficiency apartments. And so every year, probably staggered 2 or 3 times a year, we would get together a panel, artists would apply, and for residents, and basically they could live in this building for 1 year, rent-free, utility-free, so they can focus on establishing their careers, getting their name out there. And then what the city gets in return, one, they would be required to do community service in the community. And then second is that entertainment, so if you are if you're a singer, you're expected to put on shows. If you're a dancer, you're expected to put on shows. Even if it's just little things, it's to the benefit of everyone to do that. And, I've talked with a lot of our arts community, and this is something they really think would bump Beckley up to the next level when it comes to the things that we have going on here. I should have mentioned that I will obviously complete the parking on Earwood at this point, in for a penny, in for a pound. So the next thing I want to put uptown is a museum. And I want to put this museum either in the old police station, or if the police station absolutely cannot be refurbished, it's something we would look at tearing down and then rebuilding a museum for that spot. Specifically, I think there's lots of different things that we could build a museum for, but one in particular I think could really bring national level visitors and attention to Beckley is and I'm calling it the National Union and Labor Movement Museum. There's really no dedicated museum that I was able to find dedicated to unions and the labor movement. And one of the things, if you've if you've lived in West Virginia in the coal industry, the unions are very, very important. We've also seen that again with the teachers over the last couple of years. And that labor movement is not just important here in West Virginia, it's important to everybody around the nation. So what I would like to do is build this National Union and Labor Museum here in Beckley, either using the old police building or tearing it down and putting in a new building. It's something that, with Tamarack and with the right investment, I think is something that becomes more than just a local draw. It becomes really a national draw, and it's someplace that I really think that our unions will get behind. We do have a strong union history, and I think they deserve to be recognized. So we got that, the Arts Collective. I want to do, if you see it, it's actually kind of heartbreaking if you look at it. I didn't spend a lot of time in the underground, but I was down there every so often. And, and I hope you all can see this. The top picture will be what it was in 2014, and then what it was supposed to be. And so, as you could see in what it was supposed to be, could be a really nice thing. And I honestly don't know what happened with that. I will tell you that it doesn't look like any of the funds were put in by the city. But I don't think that, I think that if the city invests properly, that the underground is something that could really be an asset to the city, especially as a college town going through. But while doing the underground itself will be one big step, making it bright and safe, there's some other steps as far as, how do we attract students there? How do we protect all the patrons there from other issues that are going on in the city as well. So those are really the four, and expanding parking in general. But I have another thing on that I'll talk about a little bit later on, exactly how I think we can expand parking in Beckley. Parking's a touchy subject with a lot of people, including me. I still don't like to go downtown unless I absolutely have to, just because of paying the parking meters. And yeah, it's a difficult thing. And so I've taken a hard look at what I think is a workable plan for parking that includes some metered parking, some continued monthly parking, and then free parking as well, so that people can come downtown, walk around, do stuff. It tears me up to think that, we've got the DHHR there. People are going there asking for help, needing money, needing support, and Beckley's charging them for parking. Just things that don't make sense to me. Now, but I will say this, when I talk about, especially about talking about downtown, one of the things to note is that there's only so much the city can do. We can have this great plan. We could I truly believe that if we have the art collective, the museum with the playhouse, and then to get our building owners to make that next leap, I think we need somewhere between 5 and 10 family restaurants downtown, and also between 5 or 10 specialty retailers downtown. By specialty retailers, I'm thinking of things like the bike shop that's currently down there on First Avenue, intersection of First Avenue and Second Street. Yeah. Though I'm not saying that they need to move. It's just an example of, I think that there's the ability to do these specialty shops downtown. And so when you have the arts, you have the museum, you have the playhouse, you've got restaurants, and now you have this specialty retail. It's something that I think can really revive our downtown. But the city can do some stuff. The city can't do everything. In the end, it still comes up to those building owners saying that, okay, we're going to open a business. The city can help manage those risks,
You can call friends,
but
family, and businesses. For example,
Google's listening to me.
Call John's Mobile or call the sandwich.
Thank you, Google.
Street.
It's always listening. But it's got to be an all-in effort. We can't have one business opening a restaurant, trying to run it, and then close. Another person open a restaurant, trying to close. Then we open up one retail store. Well, it's closing. This has to be a mass effort of everybody downtown. It has to be a commitment to say, yes, we're going to open these restaurants. Yes, we're going to open these retail places. And the city's going to make a commitment to the Arts Collective, to the museum. And I really think all working together at the same time, we will achieve the effect we really want to achieve. But it's going to take a little bit to pull that one together. Business owners have been stung, off of promises in the past about how to work downtown. And that's something that will take some time to overcome. The city, other than Neville Street, really has not invested in downtown. You go to Prince Street and it looks like nothing's been done there. And again, the only thing we've talked about doing there is tearing down a building and making more parking. So again, and I'll have more detail on how we can increase parking in our downtown area, with specifically a bunch of it coming there at Prince Street, so that we can help those building owners get going and get started. Because again, it can't be just one small stretch. It can't just be one business owner. It's got to be all of us coming together and working on a solid plan. This is what we're doing. And if we could do that, we'll have a good downtown. If we can't do that, we'll continue sputtering on as we are. Though I will say, from my perspective, if elected mayor, the Arts Collective and the museum will be two things that I absolutely push as hard as I can, because I think they're both doable and will pay off in the long run with bringing people into the city. So those are the papers that I've had and the things that I wanted to discuss. Not sure if there's any questions. Okay, there's a bunch of questions. Let's answer questions.
Cindy says the old police building is in bad shape. Why not buy the gravel pit where the 3 buildings were and put a museum there?
I think that that's a potential option. It really goes down to price and how much it costs. If it is cheaper to demolish and rebuild at the police, it's taxpayer money. We owe it to them to do that. Do I think that that's a better site for it? Absolutely. I think that's a great site for it. But it all comes down to affordability and making sure the taxpayers are getting the value for their money. No other questions? All right. Boy, it felt like I talked a lot today, because I did talk a lot today. But I think it's important for you all to hear these ideas. It really comes down to accountability. When you look at politicians, you see it all the time. All these politicians have great ideas. We're going to work on downtown. We're going to pave roads. We're going to make places safe from crime. But when you really get down to it and you ask them what they're going to do, they have no clue. And that's why I think it's important for me to let you know, not only do I have a plan, but I'm telling you my plan so you can hold me and the city accountable for this plan and how we're doing it. And accountability, transparency, you'll hear so much of that from me, because that is how we build a great community in Beckley. So, if there are one last time any other questions to ask me, is my lap cat here wanting to know where her cheese is? I guess not. I don't know how I got by a whole session without much of a lap cat. So, as always, if you have any questions, you can feel free to message us. You could comment, ask questions on this post, email us, call us, however you can get a hold of us to let us know kind of what your questions and what you're thinking about. One thing that I know for a fact is I do not have all the answers. No political candidate has all the answers. And so you will always find that I have open ears. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your ideas on how to make Beckley better. So, nothing else? Oh, wait, see, I always say one last thing, because I always have one more thing to say. And I'm really not this much of a talkative person, believe it or not. Remember to take care of yourselves. With this virus, I know how hard it is. I personally am struggling in the enforced isolation. I'm having difficulties. I know lots of other people are, except probably the introverts, are like, this is my perfect life. But the rest of us, some of us, I really want to, say take care of yourself, do the things that you need to do. I think I did have a last minute question.
Yes, Carla wants to know, in the old Tudors building in the city, is the old Tudors building in the city, and is there a plan for that?
The old Tudors, I'm assuming you mean the one there near, I think it's 4th Street and South Oakwood. They did have the Tudors uptown, but the county bought that land and tore that, or well, the city may have bought it, but they tore it down. And so what I know of or heard was that the owner of that building was going to give it to Carpenter's Corner in order to help enlarge their kitchen and make it a place that they can serve food out of. What I understand is that the building was heavily vandalized. A lot of the wiring, a lot of the pipes gone. So I don't know what the timeline is for that. I will also say I'm not so sure, and Christina's going to give me dirty looks because we go back and forth over this. I think there is something better that we can do to help our Carpenter's Corner, our homeless population, and those that really at the bottom of society that really need help beyond just lunch and meals. And I'm still working the details of that. And that'll definitely be a position paper that comes out. Whether that includes tutors or not, locations matter. One of the biggest issues with the current Carpenter's Corner is being in our downtown area. Some people feel that that's not quite the great place for it. On the flip side, a lot of people think it's the place for it because that's the center of transportation. That's where people have to go to do stuff. So there's a lot of thought that has to go into that. I have a plan that I would like to do, and I'll talk more about that one later. But the bottom line is I want to do what is best for our population that needs help. And if that's helping get that Tudor's Biscuit World up and running so people can go there, we'll look at that. If it's helping refurbish the Carpenter's Corner or figure out some other way to make that building better or more usable, maybe we'll look at that. But as a city, we owe it to, well, I won't say owe it. I guess what I really should say is we owe it to all the residents, all of our business owners downtown, as well as our lower income individuals that need help, to come up with a way in which everybody wins. And that's what we're always looking for. So anything else come in? All right. So again, take care of yourselves. Take care of your neighbors. If you know people that are elderly or disabled that may need extra assistance, please reach out to them. See if they need help. That's all I have. Thank you very much. Have a good night.